Good day everyone. Welcome back to our class. Today, we will going to continue our discussion about globalization, focusing on the impact of globalization in the society. So, without any further ado, let's start. Okay class, so before we continue with our lesson, let us have a short recap on our previous discussion. Let's focus on the definitions as well as the parameters of globalization. So again, what is globalization? Going back to our previous meeting, globalization refers to the interaction of one economy with all the other economies of the world. This interaction can be in terms of financial transactions, trade, politics, education, production, and etc. And globalization pick up steam with the invention of newer technologies in the world of transportation and communication. Thus, it can be seen that though globalization is traced back to the ancient times by historian, it truly began at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century. So, how can we see the extent of globalization? Let's look at the parameters. So, what are the parameters of globalization? First, free flows of goods and services between countries due to the reduction of trade barriers as what we have discussed previously. Creation of an environment for flow of capital and investment among countries, free flow of technology from one country to another, and free movement of labor among countries. So, those are the parameters of globalizations. Features of globalization: the business expands throughout the world. Goods and services are brought or sold to or from any countries of the world. Products are planned and developed keeping in mind the markets of the entire world. Manufacturing and distribution can be done at any part of the world based on feasibility and viability, and outsourcing of goods and services can be done. Okay, so for today's discussion, let's focus on the impact of globalization.
This video will explain the impacts of globalization. The evidence of globalization is everywhere, but it is important to recognize that not everyone is in favor of it. Some groups argue that TNCs are responsible for many of the world's environmental problems. These
Okay class, now going back to our previous discussion, PNCS means transnational corporations or companies, or in other term, multinational companies. Those companies who manage to establish their businesses around the world.
include global warming, the depletion of natural resources, and the production of harmful chemicals.
Okay class, as what we have already discussed, globalization has a huge effect on environment due to the improper use of our natural resources. Environmental problem arise.
Some groups also claim that TNCs take advantage of developing countries by polluting industries within their borders, logging their tropical forests, and exploiting their labor.
Okay class, so here is an example of the impact of globalization, especially in the developing countries. So one is the exploitation in labor as well as in natural resources. As we all know, most of the developing countries uh, belong to the labor force of those transnational companies and corporations. So what are the example of this? Logging forests and exploitation of labor.
Other concerns include the loss of local culture, the tendency for developed countries to interfere in the affairs of developing countries, and the reduced power of governments to control economic activity. However, there are people who support globalization and suggest it benefits individuals and the global community. Supporters of globalization claim that it results in faster economic growth, quicker access to new technology, cheaper imports, and greater competition. Supporters of globalization also argue that globalization will make the world economy more efficient and will continue to create hundreds of millions of jobs, mainly in developing countries. Thank you for watching Adumacate.
Ayan, no? Kahit sa kultura, makikita natin yung epekto ng globalisasyon. Kasi, ang globalisasyon naman hindi lang pang aspetong ekonomiya. Para makita natin na tayo ay apektada ng globalisasyon pagdating sa ating kultura, mapapansin natin ito sa pananamit, pananalita, o kahit yung pagpili ng mga produkto. Sa mga napapanood natin sa mga telebisyon, papakinggan natin uri ng musika, kasi bahagi ng kultura yung kultura yung libangan, yung kultura yung musika, kultura yung mga yan. Pero dahil sa globalisasyon ay nabubuksan yung ating mata sa pandaigdigang uri ng art, no? Pwedeng art, pwedeng kagamitan, or ano pa man. Ganyan. So, anong nangyayari? Naapektuhan yung pananaw natin ng pamimili. Pwedeng nakikiuso tayo sa napapanood, nakikita natin sa ibang bansa, ginagaya natin. Minsan hindi lang ginagaya, pagkos ay parang isinasabuhay natin. So, ano nangyayari ngayon? Yung kultura natin nagbabago. Okay? Nagbabago, napapalitan, ganyan. Pero of course, it takes years. Yun nga lang, nakadepende kasi yun sa mga susunod na henerasyon. And then, developed countries interfere with developing ones. Halimbawa, yung Amerika, yung China, yung Russia, pwede silang magdikta o magsabi ano ba yung gusto nila napapabor sa kanila upang nang sa ganun ay pangalagaan nila yung kanilang interest. Alam naman natin, pag sinabing developing, ito yung mga bansang marami sa populasyon ay bahagi ng lakas paggawa bilang manggagawa. Ibig sabihin, mga nasa sila, mga proletariat. Mga proletariat. So, dahil ang mga developed countries yung tumutulong upang bumuo ng trabaho sa mga developing countries, ang nangyayari, nagkakaroon sila ng pribilehiyong magdikta o kahit hindi magdikte, parang mag-suggest ng mga alituntuning papabor sa kanila. Then, reduce government control of economic activity. Nakikita naman natin yan. Okay? Although, ang gobyerno ay naasahan nating kinakailangan kumontrol sa ekonomiya, ngunit ang mga malalaking kumpanya, transnational corporations company, ay nagagawang panghimasukan yung ilang gawaing pang-ekonomiya na papabor sa kanila. And class, please keep in mind that at present, we seldom use the word first world, second world, and third world countries. But rather, we choose to use developing, underdeveloped, and developed countries to categorize the economic status of countries and nations in the world. Okay? To end this discussion, I want to ask a simple question. Globalization, is it good or bad? And who benefited the most in this process? Please comment your answer on our announcement section. So that's it. I hope you learned something from our lesson and discussion for today, and see you again next time. Thank you. God bless. Keep learning and keep safe.